just as you're saying, from the perspective of seeing like these videos and like seeing, we were just watching a video on like someone that's built basically deep research. Instead of it being $200 a month, they built it and made it open source. And you were saying, like, as far as you're aware, like in terms of what DeepSeek have done, their innovations, the two things that they've been doing.
We're talking DeepSeek or Deep Search, because I always get confused. Which one is which?
DeepSeek is the Chinese company, just for you folks, that that made their claim to fame only a couple of weeks ago, because things move so fast in this space, and made it so that you can have this model. It's open source. You can download it, fine tune it, and it's highly capable. Like, it was rivaling O1, maybe O3. I haven't seen like the latest kind of like from artificial analysis and stuff, but it's out there, and they did it from like much less training. Obviously they built it on top of like everything that's come before it, but they've had a unique way that they've pieced things together.
Yeah, so there's a lot of negativity from many different places around the value of DeepSeek.
Yeah.
R1.
Is it innovative and stuff?
Yeah. Did it actually cost $6 million to train? I guess that we'll never really know. I read one piece that said that it probably cost more around $1 billion to actually get to the point where you could train it for $6 million, right? Yeah. So it's all about accounting and the story that people want to put out there, and also the story that people want to hear. But from a research standpoint, my very limited understanding was that Deep Search did two things in the least that were not new, but they did them really, really well, and they did them in a stable fashion. And the first one was that if you oversimplify the statements a lot, because I don't understand the detail. The current language models, they are very big language models, and when you're training them, you're, let's say, training this one massive neural network. And I know that the detail that I'm describing it, the way I'm describing the detail is incorrect, but just kind of follow the principle. Instead of training one massive neural network that kind of contains all of this, the information, it fills up with the information that you're training it against. What DeepSeek managed to do, which actually Mixtro did as well, but at a smaller scale, was not have a monolith, but have multiple agents. And DeepSeek, in contrast to Mixtro, they had many agents. The problem with having many agents is that to have stability across that training when you have those many agents is really difficult. And you have a number of different issues, like, for example, how do you make it so that not just a few of these agents are trained across all the data, but that the data kind of gets shared appropriately across all of these different agents. They solved that. Now, the reason why that was important was because it's much less compute intensive to train each one of these smaller things separately than this massive thing all the time. The second thing that they figured out was that when you're doing the calculations in the training, you're running an optimization problem. And the richer or the more precision you have in the float calculations, the easier it is to get convergence. And that makes sense. The problem is that the bigger the number, as in the precision in the floats, the more expensive it is to calculate. So instead of having 16-bit floats, they were able to go down to 8-bit floats. And again, much cheaper computation, and therefore faster and less compute, and yada yada yada, right? So, at the end of the day, who cares that it was not a completely new idea, right? Yeah. They actually fixed something that was important. Everybody's learning from it, and they open sourced it.
And saying that it's not, we see some of these arguments that it's not innovative, and it's like, regardless if it's not innovative to you, subjective, to the eye of the beholder, the fact is that they executed, right? You might not have believed when ChatGPT came out that that's a really good, thing out there. And a lot of people argue with it. It was missing all these features. It was hallucinating. well, they launched it, they executed, and a lot of people used it. A lot of people found value, and I think that's really the key there. Whatever you're doing, it's finding that value, right? And like I see these articles, like a friend of ours, Ben, posted something where people had like this panic attack when they saw someone else like building something that they were doing and raising money for it. But it doesn't matter. Like, it's not always the first to get to market. It's the one that really execute well. So whether it's IP,
Apple is a great example.
Apple, yeah, exactly.
They're never first to market, and
Yeah.
the later they are to market, the more dangerous they become. Is a story. Right.
Apple Intelligence is arguable at the moment because people, had high expectations for Apple Intelligence. It's not quite there yet, but maybe it's just what happens as they're cooking more, and when they do come out with something that's really useful, it is massive,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it just benefits OpenAI as well, and all the other big companies that are really well funded, because I think that right now it's quite clear. It's been clear for a while, but two salient points are A, DeepSeek coming out with their language model. Point two is deep search coming out or being replicated and being put out as open source. Right, that kind of shows that IP, software IP, is not an asset anymore. Because what language models are doing is that they're democratizing access to that knowledge and the way in which you can process and ideate and build software and so forth, that everybody's really on that set level playing field to a certain extent in software development. And sure, innovation, creativity is super valuable, but like the decay factor on that value is really, really high, because there will be somebody else that has come up with exactly the same thought and will deliver it right.
Or there will be a machine, when I say machine software, there'll be an AI out there that comes up with the exact same thoughts faster and creates even more thoughts. So the IP is not going to be the power.
No, the software is not the IP, that's not the asset. I think that Linux showed that like 20 years ago, but it takes time for people to kind of recognize it. I mean, at the end of the day, OpenAI still have a shit ton of cash, and they have access to machines and specialized hardware that at the end of the day look, I'm not an expert, but I would assume put DeepSeek algorithms on top of that, and you're just supercharging the compute that you can extract from the OpenAI accessible hardware, right? But it really puts a big question mark around people that want to build businesses. Let's say A, build businesses from AI, but B, even build businesses overall, at least service businesses, right? Because I think that AI businesses per se, it's a really difficult thing to understand what an AI business means if what you're doing is not deliver software, which I don't think that you should, because again, software is not the asset. Then what does it actually mean to be an AI business? And that kind of goes down to the next point, which is that the business at the end of the day is always adding value to a customer, and they're paying you for something, and that something is I would call it a service, right? Is it a SaaS? Is it this? Is it that? Like it's a service. You're giving them your experience. You're buying, or you're offering them a buying experience, right? And what I think that people should be focusing more on is how do I use AI to streamline that experience and offer better quality for the end customers, right?
Yeah, and Sam even said it as well. Like he said it, I think it was like late last year, that you should stop focusing on trying to like do stuff that is just a gap with what OpenAI currently had at the time, because they will probably cover that gap. Focus more on like how do you ride the wave that they are building up, because and it's pointing to services really. Like even you could look at, okay, it's a software company, whatever, but it's this, I'm going and using their stuff because of the service it provides me as a developer, being able to use their models to create services for someone else. We're all servicing the next line down and stuff in the supply chain. So it's a much better way to think about it.
One last point is that it's so circular, or it's so prevalent, let's say, that software is not really the IP. where companies that, like OpenAI, that developed GPT, then developed DeepSeek. DeepSeek then gets open sourced by someone else that says, I don't want to pay OpenAI $200 a month to access this software.
Deep research.
Correct, deep research.
Yeah.
So the company that created product A got cannibalized or had a really fast Kodak moment, let's say, because maybe it's not the right term, but nevertheless, they're hurting their ability to generate revenue because somebody else using exactly the same software as they did, most likely, to create that product.
Using like...
Exactly, did the same thing. And now there's a question like, why would I pay $200 for that specific feature, right?
And you see the link here that we share of the YouTube video that shows a tutorial for how you can go through this kind of stuff. It's all in the execution, really. Consider better where the IP lies, and if you want to have a chat more about this, let's discuss. Cheers.